Hey everyone, the fly I'm going to be tying for you today is my France Midge. This is a fly that I came up with. I was actually sitting at my bench one day and I was tying a bunch of France flies, which is a fly that I absolutely love. And I was tying a bunch of Zebra Midges. And as I was tying a Zebra Midge, I looked over at the micro tubing that you use for a France fly and I thought, wow, that would make a pretty good midge pattern. So I ended up tying about a half a dozen of them in black on a size 20, and went to a tailwater, and I absolutely just wrecked the fish that day. And it was really ever since that day, I just started tying them in different colors. I tie about 4 different colors, and it really has become my go-to midge pattern. So let's put a hook in the vise, and we'll tie one up for you. You're gonna see it's a pretty simple pattern to tie. So the hook I have in the vise is a Dohiku 644. This is a size 18. I tie them in 18s and 20s, and honestly, I probably use size 20 more than the 18s. And the bead is a silver inverted 2.5 millimeter tungsten bead. I really like using inverted beads on these 644s. I also use a 2.0 millimeter inverted beads as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I seat the bead on the hook. I just take a little brushable super glue, just dab it on the hook, and then we're going to just flip it over and push that bead towards the front there. Just make sure it's centered. Just with a little pressure, just push it up there and you'll see it holds in place real easy. So the secret sauce of this France Midge is Hareline Micro Tubing. And I'm going to tie this in a blood midge. So this is blood red micro tubing. The one thing, if you've ever used micro tubing, this here is olive. The one thing about it is it's translucent. So what happens is whatever thread color you use underneath the tubing, it affects the overall color of the fly. So if you're tying one that you want light olive and you end up using an olive thread or even sometimes a light olive thread, it ends up being darker. So when I look at the micro tubing color, this is the color that I want the fly. So the best thing that I found to use so you don't have that thread color change underneath is I use Veevus GSP. This is gel spun, and this is a 30 denier, and this is white. And white's important because the cool thing about it is when you spin it and flatten this thread, it flattens really nicely, but you can put tons of pressure on it. And as you put pressure on it, the white ends up kind of clearing out. So when we put it over the micro tubing color stays intact. So what we need to do here, the one thing about gel spun is it's very slippery. So if we just try to put it on the hook, you know, the traditional way, it'll end up slipping off. So what I like to do is just give it something to grab onto. So I just take a little super glue, put it on a bodkin, and just touch it right there behind the bead. Now we can take our thread and just wrap it, and you can see real quickly it has something to hold on to. Go ahead and cut the excess off here. Now we're going to take some, once again, we're tying a blood midge, and we're going to take the tubing out. Go ahead and spin your thread counterclockwise. What that does is it flattens it, and also you'll see that it jumps backwards, so it's real easy to grab. Take that micro tubing and just pull it just behind the bead. Go ahead with about 3 or 4 wraps. You can see that it won't slip on this micro tubing because it's not as slick, so it's rubbery and it just grabs right onto it. So the one thing about microtubing that I love is, now midges are very thin, and I see a lot of midge patterns that are way too bulky. So the great thing about this is it stretches really nice. So you can see that's about a hook in length. And if we pull, that's 2 times, 3 times, that's 4 times. So we are gonna really stretch this out, and it's really hard to break. So we're gonna stretch it out, and now with flat thread, we're gonna put a lot of pressure on this thread, and as we go down, you can see that we are not, it almost looks like the diameter of the hook. We are not adding any bulk whatsoever. Now, the one thing is, I don't know if you can see it, but you might not be able to see it because of the glare, but it's still red underneath. And that's what's key. This thread allows the color to stay intact. So now I like to take it down the curve of the hook, and what we're gonna do is, instead of wrapping all the way back up, we're just gonna go 1, 2, 3 times, and you're right behind the bead again. We haven't added any bulk whatsoever. Now, you have to keep pressure on this. As you go back up, if you let go, it's gonna turn white. So that's really important. So once we're behind the bead, we can go ahead and put it on the bobbin cradle. And now, once again, we're gonna stretch this. You can see how much you can stretch this. So we're gonna stretch it, get it really thin, put that first wrap in front of the hook. Now, just go ahead and spin it up. And each wrap is gonna be in front of the last. Just take your time, and it will naturally taper as we get towards the bead. And just take it right to behind the bead. Go ahead and put 1, 2 wraps behind it, 1, 2 in front of it. Stretch it out, cut it, and it's gonna snap right back in there. So I like using, this is pine squirrel. You can use, this is from Jack Mikovits. He's not around anymore. He passed away. He makes really great dubbing, but any type of gray I like, because when it gets wet, it darkens. And this has a little Antron in it. So SLF, squirrel dubbing works. Any really thinly cut dubbing works great, because we're just gonna put a little collar on this. And when I say little, really, really little. That right there is probably about 1/4 of an inch, right there. So 1, 2, 3, you see about 3.5 wraps. You can see it's a really small collar. Now, to finish this fly off, I just take a little brushable Loctite again. We're gonna put it on the thread. And all you have to do is just wrap it around 2 times, put some pressure on it. You can see I'm not doing any whip finishes, because on small flies with small collars, just give it a little haircut. Small flies and small collars, when you do a lot of whip finishes, what happens is the thread goes backwards and really cuts in to the collar and just kind of overwhelms it, and it just makes for a messy fly. But this thing is extremely durable. So there you go. There is the France Midge, and this is a blood midge. So this is in blood red with a silver bead. I also tie them in black with a silver bead. I like olive with a silver bead, and also brown olive. Just a really great bug, just an excellent midge pattern. And it's really replaced the Zebra Midge in my box. And I know that sounds blasphemous, because the Zebra Midge is a classic, but you know, that's the beauty about fly tying. It's just kind of the evolution of materials out there. And this Hareline Micro Tubing just makes some fabulous, really natural looking bugs. And I really feel confident, if you're fishing waters that have midges and you want a midge pattern on your line, tie some of these up. It deserves a row in your box, and I feel really confident that you're gonna catch some fish on it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. I'm happy to help you out. If you liked it, I would appreciate if you give me a thumbs up. And as always, tight lines, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye.